Welcome everyone, let's jump right into it. Today's explainer serves as a rigorous and frankly exhilarating investigation into an empirical anomaly that threatens to absolutely shatter the very foundation of classical gravitation and Einstein's general relativity. We're going to examine Professor Matti Pitkinen's theoretical framework, exploring a fascinating intersection where astrophysics meets macroscopic quantum mechanics. Now, I want you to consider this fundamental paradox. Could the mere geometric alignment of celestial bodies actually alter the localized gravitational vector of a pendulum right here on Earth? Well, standard physics strictly prohibits this. It dictates that gravity is a smooth, continuous curvature of spacetime. End of story, right? Yet, the empirical data we'll be examining today suggests something entirely different. It points to a dynamic, highly interactive universe that actively resists our classical models.
Here is our syllabus for today to unpack this complex framework. First, the solar eclipse mystery. Second, failing standard physics. Third, the TGD quantum solution. Fourth, the moon as a quantum obstacle. And finally, the warping of space-time.
Let's begin with Section 1, the solar eclipse mystery, and Maurice Allais's 1954 discovery. We start our inquiry in 1954. Physicist Maurice Allais was observing a paraconical pendulum, which is an instrument meticulously designed to swing and rotate freely in multiple dimensions, and it behaved inexplicably during a solar eclipse. The anomaly was absolutely profound. The azimuth of the pendulum's oscillation plane abruptly deviated by an astonishing 13.5 degrees over a span of just 14 minutes. Now, such a rapid, massive angular deviation during an astronomical alignment points undeniably to a dynamic external perturbation. In classical terms, you see, a pendulum's plane of oscillation should remain rigidly fixed relative to the distant stars, aside from the slow drift caused by the Earth's rotation. To see it violently shifted like this, it suggests a sudden, localized restructuring of the gravitational field itself. Furthermore, we have to look to subsequent empirical validations. Romanian researchers later observed a remarkable reduction in the oscillation frequency of a similar pendulum by a factor of 5 × 10⁻⁴. Now, standard gravitational models treat planetary bodies as simple point masses, exerting a constant, predictable pull. So a reduction in frequency of this sheer magnitude implies either some inexplicable external damping force or, far more intriguingly, a fundamental temporary alteration in local gravity that Newtonian mechanics completely forbids. Let me be clear, we're not looking at experimental noise here. We are observing a systemic, repeatable violation of classical physical laws.
This leads us directly into Section 2, failing standard physics and the resulting paradigm crisis.
Naturally, we must ask ourselves, why do classical Newtonian gravity and Einstein's general relativity fail so completely to account for this phenomenon? Standard physics posits a screening effect, assuming the moon simply acts as a physical shield, absorbing or blocking a minute fraction of the sun's gravitational pull. However, mathematically, a screening effect would only result in a minor vertical change, a microscopic drop in downward force. It utterly fails to explain the violent horizontal or transversal shifts we see in the actual empirical data. Nor can classical physics explain why this gravitational anomaly spans across the entire Earth, registering on instruments located far, far beyond the geometric, optical shadow of the eclipse.
To resolve this, we move to Section 3, the TGD quantum solution, reimagining the fabric of reality.
To address this paradigm crisis, we must shift our theoretical framework entirely. We must introduce Topological Geometrodynamics, or TGD. TGD requires us to discard the old notion of gravity as just the smooth curvature of an empty mathematical trampoline. Instead, it models gravitation as an interaction mediated by tangible, string-like structures known as magnetic monopole flux tubes. I want you to imagine these not as abstract concepts, but as rigid physical tethers connecting celestial bodies across the vacuum of space. Furthermore, these tubes operate under massive gravitational Planck constants. In standard quantum mechanics, Planck's constant is infinitesimally small, restricting quantum oddities to the subatomic realm. But a massive gravitational Planck constant effectively scales up these quantum effects. It makes quantum coherence and interference possible on an astronomical, macroscopic scale. To truly comprehend this, we must adopt a much higher-level view, the world of classical worlds, or WCW. In standard physics, we're used to calculating the probability of a single microscopic particle's position. But in the framework of the WCW, wave mechanics apply to entire three-dimensional surfaces. This means we are actually calculating the quantum probability of entire universe geometries.
It elevates quantum mechanics from the microscopic realm right up to the cosmological scale. In this theoretical space, the macroscopic fabric of space-time itself can exhibit wave-like behaviors, including diffraction and interference, much like light passing through a glass prism. Which brings us to Section 4, the Moon as a quantum obstacle, hydrodynamics and diffraction.
Let's detail the precise mechanics of the Moon's role within this framework. We can conceptualize this using an analogy from fluid dynamics. Imagine an incompressible fluid flowing steadily past a large rock in a stream. In our celestial scenario, the Sun emits these massive gravitational monopole flux tubes. As they travel toward Earth, the Moon physically obstructs them. The Moon literally forces these macroscopic gravitational strings to bend, split, and diffract around its mass. This massive disruption generates complex quantum interference patterns, literal ripples in the gravitational tethers connecting us to the Sun. These ripples subsequently propagate through the cosmic vacuum, washing over the Earth and drastically altering the local gravitational environment of our pendulum.
And the profound nature of this hypothesis is brilliantly supported by empirical data. During the 2009 solar eclipse, researchers observed a distinct 44-meter spatial periodicity in the gravitational anomaly. This is the empirical smoking gun, colleagues. A periodic variation at exactly 44 meters indicates that this isn't simple optical shadowing or a gradual weakening of gravity. It is a genuine, physically measurable grid of distorted, diffracted gravity passing over the pendulum. It's a macroscopic quantum interference pattern mapped directly onto the surface of our planet.
Finally, we arrive at Section 5, warping of space-time, and explaining that perplexing frequency drop.
To rigorously explain that severe drop in the pendulum's frequency we discussed earlier, we must employ Zero Energy Ontology, or ZEO. ZEO is a framework that radically redefines how we perceive time and geometric reality. Within this ontology, reality is structured by what are called causal diamonds. A causal diamond represents the geometric intersection of a future-directed and past-directed light cone. Think of it as the absolute boundaries of what can be observed or what can mathematically interact. Within these causal diamonds, space-time sheets exist in a strict, hierarchical scale, layering fundamental physics from the microscopic all the way to the astrophysical.
Let's walk through the mechanism step by step. During the intense quantum criticality of a solar eclipse, when these celestial bodies perfectly align and the flux tubes diffract, the physical warping of space-time surfaces modifies what physicists call the Hamilton-Jacobi structure. This severe geometric distortion fundamentally reduces the effective light velocity parameter in that localized region. Why does this matter? Because this mechanism creates a direct mathematical analog to cosmic redshift. Just as the expansion of the universe stretches light from distant galaxies and shifts its frequency, the localized warping of spacetime during the eclipse mathematically stretches and shifts the temporal frequency of the pendulum's swing right here on Earth.
This brings us to Professor Pitkinnen's ultimate thesis, encapsulated precisely in his own words. He states, "The Allais effect would not reflect so much gravitational interaction as the basic ontology of TGD involving WCW, hierarchy of Planck constants, and zero energy ontology." You see, the Allais effect is not a mere bug in the data. It's not an experimental error to be smoothed over by classical physicists. It serves as a profound validation of an entirely new theoretical framework. It requires a complete ontological shift in physics, proving that these phenomena are features of a fundamentally different, dynamically quantum universe.
I leave you with this final philosophical inquiry for your own rigorous consideration. If classical gravitation is in fact an illusion masking macroscopic quantum diffraction, how much of our perceived geometric reality remains a total fabrication? Thank you for joining me for this explainer. Until next time, keep questioning the universe.